All right, guys, we're going to go over how to set up your agent. So, normally at the same time that you're signing the contracts from the previous lesson, we're going to make sure that your agent, how you set them up, right? That you are all over them in terms of making sure that you are getting all the information that you need to find a property. So, uh, just as a FYI, there's something called an MLS that you're going to need access to, okay? The MLS is something called a multiple listing service. It's essentially a platform for real estate agents who list properties for sales. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to filter only multifamily properties. Okay, you can access that through your agent via a portal or a subscription, which we're going to go over. But essentially, when a property goes for sale, right, it's going to hit something called the MLS, which is where it's the platform in which you're going to look for properties to purchase. Now, every single property has an MLS number, and that's a unique identifier so that way everyone knows which address and property you are talking about. But we can go over that more thoroughly. But for the most part, an MLS is essentially a marketplace for houses that are for sale, and that we're going to distinctly look for multifamily properties. Now, something called a portal. Okay, so your agent's going to set you up with something called a portal. The portal is saying that once that your agent sets it up, basically you're saying, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, I just want to look for multifamily properties in Tucson, or I want to look for multifamily properties in Phoenix, or I want to look for distinctly multifamily properties in Vegas, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Jacksonville, Florida." The the point is that, like, for instance, once your agent sets up the portal, right, they're going to send you a link, and that link is going to have a username, password, and stuff. And then once you enter the portal, you're going to see every single multifamily property that's for sale. Now, keep in mind though, right? If you're saying, "Hey, my budget is only $350,000," well, then in that case, you're only going to look for multifamily properties that are $350,000, right? There might be other multifamily properties that are more than 350, but your filters are going to determine what you can and can't see. Now, normally, what I would do is when I set up a portal, I would just say, "Hey, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, I want to see every single multifamily property in this area." I have no filters normally just because, like, I just want to make sure that in the event that another agent who is listing a property on the MLS makes a typo or something, uh, I don't care. I just want to see everything that's on the market. So that's just kind of how I would do it. But if you can set up something with that matches your budget with your current debt to income ratio, and or if you don't want to look for a property in a certain neighborhood, that's totally up to you. But at the end of the day, a portal, essentially, think about it as a website where you can look for properties that are on a listing service. Now, this is where, for instance, why don't I just use Zillow? A lot of the time, Zillow will show a property is active, and then all of a sudden, when you look on the listing service and call the agent, the property is active contingent. Now, this might change over time. Zillow is becoming more and more powerful as a platform, but to this day, I would still make sure that I would have an agent and use a portal to determine what properties are for sale or not. Now, that's essentially a website. Now, a link to a portal, think of it as a website that's a personal website designed for you. Okay, you're always going to have access to it. Now, the next thing I would do is have my agent set up a subscription. So, for instance, this is essentially really important because once another listing agent lists a property on the listing service, you're notified. So, the best way that I can put this is, for instance, let's say if you've ever used the app called OfferUp, and I'm gonna hate to admit it, I love Buicks. Okay, and if I say, "Hey, listen, I'm looking for a Buick Regal," and then all of a sudden I save that search, in the future, anyone who lists something on OfferUp in Phoenix for a Buick Regal, I'm going to get notified. Well, the same principle is here. So, for instance, if you set up a subscription for residential multifamily properties in Tulsa, Oklahoma, whenever an agent lists a multifamily property in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're going to get an email notification. Now, this is huge because the first two properties I placed offers on them within 2 days of them being listed. And I was able to do that because I got notified the moment those properties were listed. So, yeah, setting up a subscription is super important, especially if you are competing, which you're always going to be competing with people. So you want to know as soon as possible whenever a property that fits your criteria is hits the market. So a portal is a website which you go and you can go anytime, day or night, to look to see what's currently active on the market. And then a subscription is essentially an email subscription service where whenever a listing is added to the multiple listing service, you are immediately notified. So that's kind of how it works, guys. And from state to state, I feel that this is kind of what I've noticed to be true, but definitely want a portal and a subscription set up as soon as possible, especially after you have an agent.